Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Whether you're a longtime listener or maybe this is your very first time diving in with us, we are just thrilled to have you here.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here with us.
Today, we have a really unique and, frankly, multi-layered story to explore. We are going to be looking at the life and the career of a figure who completely blurred the lines between highly niche entertainment, mainstream pop culture, and some deeply surprising personal passions.
Yeah, it's a wild mix.
It really is. We are talking about Alexa Rae. And our sources today include translated encyclopedic entries, some detailed biographical profiles, and they really give us a comprehensive look at her life.
And it's a fascinating journey to track. I mean, when you lay all the pieces of her life out on the table for you to look at, you aren't just looking at a standard biography.
Right.
You're really looking at a masterclass in how public personas are constructed, how brands are monetized, and how someone navigates the incredibly complex space between a heavily stigmatized profession and their own private, authentic life.
Exactly. We're diving into a career that spanned adult cinema, mainstream music videos, entrepreneurship, and, of all things, competitive equestrianism.
Which is just not the combination you expect.
Not at all. And to make sure this deep dive remains accessible for you and aligns with all our standard content guidelines, we're going to be using industry-appropriate terminology to explore her career in adult cinema and lifestyle products. But the goal here isn't just to list biographical facts.
No, definitely not.
We want to understand the business acumen behind it all. We often see performers in niche or mature industries treated as, well, one-dimensional.
Yeah, flattened out.
Exactly. But today we're looking at the intense drive and the strategic brand building of someone who refused to be boxed in.
Which is exactly why her story matters to you, the listener, regardless of whether you follow the mature film industry or not.
Right.
When you look at individuals operating in these highly scrutinized, very specialized spaces, you almost always uncover these untold stories of sheer entrepreneurial grit.
Oh, absolutely.
Alexa Rae is a perfect example of someone who deeply compartmentalized a highly provocative public persona from a rigorous, very disciplined private life.
So let's actually start with that private life, because her origins are just full of these incredible juxtapositions.
They really are.
Before she was known globally as Alexa Rae, she was Mary Sharpton, born in Atlanta, Georgia in December of 1980. And right out of the gate, her teenage years present this striking contrast in the source material.
Yeah, tell them about the high school.
Right, so she's attending St. Pius X Catholic High School in Atlanta.
Which is a fairly traditional, structured environment.
Very traditional. But outside of school, she is cultivating this intensely disciplined commitment to horseback riding. And we aren't just talking about, a casual weekend hobby here.
No, she was dedicated to equestrianism for 14 years.
14 years. And she was competing at the national level.
And that 14-year commitment is really the skeleton key to understanding her entire work ethic.
How?
Well, think about what it takes to compete nationally in equestrian sports. It is a grueling, highly regimented lifestyle.
Early mornings.
Early mornings, intense physical endurance, incredibly strict routines. You have to develop a profound connection with a massive animal, absolutely, but you also have to master your own physical presence.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in the ring, you have to be confident, commanding, and totally resilient under the intense scrutiny of judges.
It's basically performance art mixed with extreme athletics.
Exactly.
And that physical presence and that confidence, it translated directly into her early career steps. She started out doing some traditional face modeling.
For some pretty big brands, actually.
Yeah, she landed work for massive mainstream brands like Guess Jeans. But she didn't stay on that traditional path for very long.
No, she made a pretty sharp pivot.
She pivoted into the world of adult cabaret. She started dancing at a notoriously famous venue in Atlanta called the Gold Club.
Under the stage name Fantasy.
Right, Fantasy. Now, it seems like a massive leap, right? And going from a Catholic high school and equestrian rings to the Gold Club.
It does look like a huge jump on paper. But psychologically and professionally, for you looking closely at her trajectory, there is a clear through line there.
The performance aspect.
Exactly. She moved from the highly scrutinized, performative discipline of competitive sports to modeling for a global fashion brand, and then straight to the physically demanding stage of cabaret dancing.
So the discipline she learned in the equestrian ring.
That stamina.
Right, the stamina and the ability to perform flawlessly while people are watching and judging her.
It laid the absolute groundwork for her career. She realized early on that she could build a highly lucrative path predicated entirely on physical performance.
And projecting a very specific, confident persona.
Exactly.
And she took that realization and she just ran with it incredibly fast. By 1998, when she was just 18 years old, she made her debut in the mature film industry.
Right alongside established performers.
Yeah, she started doing scenes with people like Dave Hardman. And almost immediately, she caught the attention of the major studios.
Which were completely dominating the adult cinema space at that time. You really have to look at the economic climate of the late 90s to grasp what a big deal that was.
Because it wasn't just like today with the internet.
Not at all. Catching the attention of major studios at 18 wasn't just about being a fresh face. The late 90s and early 2000s were an absolute boom time for physical media and adult entertainment.
The DVD gold rush.
Precisely. The transition from VHS to DVD created massive profit margins. The studios were flush with cash, and they were actively hunting for highly marketable, recognizable stars that they could build massive multi-film franchises around.
And they clearly saw that franchise potential in her. I mean, looking at her career trajectory in our sources, she wasn't just drifting from gig to gig, she was securing exclusive contract roles.
Which is huge.
She became a contract performer for absolute top-tier studios like Wicked Pictures and Sin City.
Those were the heavy hitters.
But then, a bit later, the sources showed that between 2002 and 2004, she transitioned into a non-exclusive deal with Digital Playground.
Yeah.
So, wait, how does that actually work on the business side? Is moving from an exclusive to a non-exclusive deal considered a step up or a step down for a performer?
It is a very savvy strategic evolution. In the mature film industry, landing an exclusive contract initially is the ultimate status symbol.
Okay.
It means the studio sees you as a marquee draw. They are paying you a premium, basically a guaranteed salary, to ensure that if audiences want to see Alexa Rae, they have to buy their specific DVDs.
It's like the old Hollywood studio system model.
Exactly like that. But eventually, once your brand is big enough, an exclusive contract can actually limit your earning potential.
Because you can only work for that one company.
Yeah, locked in. So moving to a non-exclusive deal with a major player like Digital Playground means she maintained a high-profile home base, but she regained the freedom to set her own day rates and work across multiple studios.
And a day rate is basically your freelance fee for a single day of shooting, right?
Right. And when you're a massive star with a non-exclusive deal, you can command astronomical day rates from competing studios who desperately want to leverage your name on their box covers.
Wow.
It's a massive financial power play.
That makes total sense. And she was incredibly prolific during this era to capitalize on that. She's starring in major titles.
Oh yeah, constantly working.
In 1999, she does a film called Crossroads. In 2000, she's in Dream Quest and Spellbound. By 2001, she's leading The Gate.
There are other big titles too.
Right, the sources mention Wild Thing and say, but here's where the historical record gets a little muddy, and I want you, the listener, to keep this in mind.
Yeah, the numbers don't perfectly align.
Exactly. One industry database claims she starred in 102 films before retiring around 2006. But then another major database lists 178 films spanning all the way up to 2009. That is a massive discrepancy.
It is a big gap, but it's actually incredibly common when you research the adult entertainment industry from the DVD era.
Why is that?
The business model back then was heavily reliant on repackaging content.
Oh, I see.
So she might have shot one original scene, but the studio would release it in the main feature, then a year later put it in a best-of compilation.
And then maybe chop it up for an early digital download site later on.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Different databases categorize those compilation films and re-releases differently.
So the 178 number might just be the same footage being sold over and over again under new titles.
Exactly. But honestly, whether the true number of original shoots is closer to 100 or 170, the sheer volume of work is staggering.
It really is.
It points to a performer who was constantly on set, managing a grueling production schedule, and remaining in incredibly high demand for years.
And that demand culminated in some major industry validation. In 2003, she won an AVN Award.
The biggest awards in that industry.
Right. She won for a highly recognized on-screen pairing with Lexington Steele in the 2002 feature Lex the Impaler 2.
A very well-known title in that space.
And on top of those mainstream industry awards, the sources specifically note that she was known for participating in highly demanded niche subgenres of adult cinema. She really leaned into these specific niches that catered to incredibly dedicated, targeted audiences.
Which is just brilliant from a marketing perspective.
Right, because of search engines.
Exactly. In the early days of internet search engines, catering to niche subgenres meant you completely owned those specific search terms.
You become the face of that specific category.
Right. It massively boosted her overall profile and made her indispensable to studios who were trying to capture those distinct market segments.
Now, I want to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
There's often this assumption, a societal narrative really, that performers in this space are somehow passive, or that they just fall into this line of work because they have no other options.
The tragic victim narrative.
Right. But when we read her profile, she explicitly referred to her career as the best job in the world.
She was very vocal about that.
She said she had always wanted to be a star in this specific field, and that she loved the opportunity to play different roles and seduce people on and off screen.
Yeah.
I mean, her only real complaint in the sources was that she wished she could travel to more exotic locations to film. But is it possible she's just putting a positive spin on an industry that can be notoriously difficult? Like a kind of defense mechanism?
It's a totally fair question, and it's important to approach these narratives critically. But when you look at her actions alongside her words, the defense mechanism theory just doesn't really hold up.
Because of the business side of things.
Yes. She wasn't just surviving in the industry. She was actively managing it. She was negotiating complex studio contracts, strategically targeting those niche markets we talked about, and winning awards.
She was in the driver's seat.
Exactly. When she says she loved playing roles and treated it as a craft, her career trajectory completely backs that up. She exhibited a massive amount of personal agency.
She really did.
She authored her own story and completely rejected that tragic narrative that society often tries to force onto performers in mature industries.
And that agency extended way beyond the camera, too.
Yeah.
Let's look at how she leveraged that fame, because she pivoted into being a true entrepreneur.
This is where it gets really interesting for anyone studying business.
She took her brand and she created a designer series of adult lifestyle and novelty products.
Right.
It's called Essential Elements.
This is Brand Extension 101, and it's a critical strategy for longevity.
Because the shelf life on camera is short.
The reality is the on-camera lifespan for a performer in adult cinema can be quite short. It's physically demanding, and audiences are always looking for the newest face.
So you need a backup plan.
By launching a physical product line like Essential Elements, she was creating passive income streams. She was no longer just the talent getting paid a day rate.
She's the boss.
She was a business owner selling an aesthetic and a lifestyle to her established fan base.
But she didn't just stay in the adult lifestyle lane. And this is where her career trajectory gets incredibly cool, I think. She started taking the skills she learned all the way back in Atlanta, her dancing and her choreography.
From the cabaret days.
Yes, and applying them to mainstream pop culture. In the early 2000s, she started getting featured in massive mainstream music videos.
Huge cultural touchstones.
She appeared in the video for Work It by Nelly, which featured Justin Timberlake.
That was a massive track.
It was everywhere. She was also prominently featured in a music video for an all-female punk band called Lowball. The sources refer to the track as either complicated or uncomplicated.
The jump from an adult film set to a Justin Timberlake and Nelly music video is a massive cultural crossover.
How does that even happen?
To understand why that happened, you have to look at the cultural climate of the Y2K era. MTV was at its absolute peak.
Oh yeah, TRL and all that.
Exactly. And music video directors were constantly looking to inject edge, provocation, and pure visual spectacle into their work.
So casting her was intentional.
Bringing a highly recognizable, glamorous star from the mature film industry into a mainstream hip-hop or pop video was a very specific kind of cultural flex at the time.
It added that edge.
It showed that her aesthetic, her dancing ability, and her overall vibe completely transcended her specific niche.
She was a true pop culture fixture. And she took that crossover appeal straight into traditional Hollywood acting, too.
Right, she did mainstream features.
She landed lead roles in non-adult mainstream films. She was in Hitman in 2002 and South of Eden in 2004.
But there was an even more surprising crossover.
Yes, her foray into mainstream journalism. She was actually featured in a prominent piece in Time magazine that discussed the rise of digital entertainment and online intimacy.
Having Time magazine tap you for a feature is a profound level of cultural validation.
It's huge.
You have to remember, the early 2000s were the wild west of the internet. The concept of digital intimacy, cybersex, and online parasocial relationships was brand new.
And frankly, terrifying to mainstream society back then.
Completely terrifying. So Time wasn't bringing her in just as an entertainer. They were treating her as an authority.
She was the expert in the room.
She was a pioneer on the frontier of what we now call the creator economy.
That is a great way to frame it. She was explaining the future of digital interaction to the mainstream public.
Exactly. And diversifying your portfolio like that, moving into music videos, traditional acting, and high-profile journalism pieces.
It builds a safety net.
Those are the exact mechanics of building a legacy and financial security that outlasts your time on an adult film set.
It's an incredible resume. I mean, the awards, the product lines, the MTV music videos, the Time magazine feature. But despite all of the Hollywood glamour and the massive success in the adult entertainment industry, we have to circle back to where we started.
The original passion.
Her enduring, absolute love for horses. Her stated ultimate dream in life wasn't to win an Oscar or become a mainstream pop star. Her ultimate dream was to train with the United States Equestrian team.
It's just such a wild mix, right?
It really is.
On one hand, you have this globally recognized, highly provocative film star and entrepreneur. And on the other hand, you have a woman whose ultimate life goal is the quiet, rigorous, almost monastic discipline of mucking out stalls and training with the National Equestrian Team.
It completely shatters the idea that people are just one thing.
It really does.
And she wasn't afraid to blend those two worlds either. I have to share this detail from her biographical profiles because it is just too good to leave out.
Oh, this is a great story.
When she was asked about her most memorable life experience, she didn't talk about Nelly. She didn't talk about Justin Timberlake or the AVN Awards or the Time magazine spread.
Yep.
She cited a highly intimate, uniquely adventurous encounter with an ex-boyfriend that took place while she was actually riding atop her horse, whose name was Chance.
While riding the horse?
Well, she was literally riding the horse.
Was literally riding the horse. I mean, it is definitely one way to merge your hobbies.
That is incredible.
But honestly, as unconventional and hilarious as that anecdote is, it is so perfectly authentic to who she was.
It is very on brand.
She was someone who lived entirely on her own terms. She was completely unapologetic about merging her love for provocative thrills with her deep, genuine passion for equestrian life.
It's so genuine.
Yeah.
And looking ahead to her long-term goals before she officially retired, her plans were just as wonderfully contradictory.
Yeah, she had a very specific vision for her future.
She outlined this dream of opening a strip club, or a cabaret, which obviously brings her story full circle right back to her roots at the Gold Club in Atlanta.
Right.
But she planned to pair that business venture with opening an equestrian center in Malibu. So I want you to picture this. A booming, glamorous nightclub sitting right next to a serene, high-end Malibu equestrian center.
It is the ultimate synthesis of her dual identity. You have the nightlife-driven, provocative entertainer who wants to run a cabaret standing right next to the dedicated, nature-loving athlete who wants to run a horse riding center.
And most people would feel the pressure to choose.
Absolutely. Most people would feel the pressure to sanitize their image for the mainstream or to fully commit to the underground. But she didn't feel the need to choose.
She embraced both sides.
She embraced both sides of her identity fully. She even noted that she planned to stay in the entertainment industry until, as she put it, the camera didn't want to film her anymore.
She loved the work.
She loved the work, but she always kept her eyes on the horses.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just take a step back and look at the incredible ground we've covered today.
It's been a journey.
We started with Mary Sharpton, a Catholic high school student and disciplined national equestrian competitor in Georgia. We watched her transition into a fashion model, then into a cabaret dancer named Fantasy.
And ultimately, we saw her build the empire of Alexa Rae.
An award-winning star in the mature film industry, a savvy entrepreneur with her own line of lifestyle products, a mainstream music video dancer, and a cultural commentator featured in Time magazine.
And if you're wondering what the real takeaway is from all of this for you,
Why this matters.
why her story is worth analyzing in such detail, I think it comes down to looking past one-dimensional labels.
Absolutely.
It is so incredibly easy for society to reduce someone to their job title, especially when they operate in highly stigmatized industries. We tend to flatten their experiences.
You box them in.
But Alexa Rae's story demands that we recognize the complex, multifaceted ambitions that drive human beings. She was a shrewd businesswoman navigating complex studio economics, a dedicated athlete, and a provocative performer, all at the exact same time.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. As always, we love unpacking these complex stories with you.
It's been a pleasure.
But before we go, we want to leave you with a final lingering question to ponder on your own.
Something to really think about.
When a public figure builds their entire brand, their wealth, and their fame on a highly scrutinized, incredibly provocative persona, how does that public identity permanently alter their ability to pursue pure, unaffected personal passions like competitive equestrianism in the traditional mainstream world? Can you ever truly go back to just being a private person in the ring?
It's a great question.
It's something to think about. Until next time, keep diving deep.